Imagine this. You are going about your day as usual, and all of a sudden, you receive a notification. An immediate family member of yours has passed away. You are shocked. You don't believe it. But what is going to happen now? What do you need to do? What are the things that needs to be looked into? In this video, this is what I would like to look into, with the hope that it will be able to assist you when you are faced with this kind of situation. Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. In this video, I'll be sharing my experience with death of an immediate family member, the death of my father back in 2017. And my hope is that it will be able to give you an idea of how the situation would be like and what are some of the things that you will need to look into and some pointers that might be useful for you when you are faced with this kind of situation. So from the time of death until the time my father was laid to rest in his burial site, it took place over the span of 4 days. And so the time of death, let's call that day 1. The day that he was laid to rest in his burial ground will be day 4. And I will be sharing in chronological order. Day 1. Just like the intro of this video, that's how I received the news of the passing of my father. It was an ordinary day. My brother came and informed me of the news that my father has passed away. In the beginning, I was skeptical. I thought it was another one of his cynical jokes. But then, when he gave me a hug and rested his head on my shoulders, I knew that he was telling the truth. And I was shocked. I don't know what to do, how to react. And I said some prayers for my father, and then after that was the time when I needed about like a few minutes for myself just to let things settle. And then the first thing that we had to decide on was on the postmortem. There are 4 of us siblings: my eldest brother, my eldest sister, myself, and my youngest sister. My brother and I were in Brunei, and my 2 sisters were in Sabah, KK. My father passed away when he was in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, and at the time of his death, my brother and I and my wife, we were in Brunei. And the first thing that we had to decide on was whether to perform a postmortem procedure on my father. My father passed away in a very sudden manner. It was just like on an ordinary day, and he was doing sports, had a fall. It was not a nasty fall, but after he fell, he did not recover from the fall, and he was lying down on the ground, and just like that, he passed away. He did not have any major medical history, and so all of us don't know what was the cause of death. And usually, one of the reasons of performing a postmortem is to identify the cause of death. There may be insurance-related issues that your family may want to consider before deciding whether or not to perform a postmortem. But in our case, there was no insurance-related matters that we had to consider. In the end, our family decided not to proceed with performing the operation, as we didn't want the body to be operated on, to leave the body as it is. We are okay with coming to terms of not knowing what the cause of death is. To us, we take it as maybe it's his time, and so he passed. Of course, it will be good to check in with your insurance company or agent before deciding. And if you are not so sure on the operation, if you have friends of medical background, you can always refer to them as well. We did all of that. We checked with the insurance agent, we checked with our friends who are doctors, who are practicing medicine, to get more information before we decided. So I remember being very anxious, especially after I received the call from my sisters, because I could hear from their voice that of course that they are sad, but also I felt like it was difficult for me to do or to help out with the arrangements being away from them, and felt even more anxious when my sisters described how my mother was at that time, when she was just feeling heartbroken. Which brings me to the first important point, is to make sure that the spouse of the deceased has always somebody accompanying him or her. So to be with him or her and to tend to their needs. So things like if they need food or just a shoulder to cry on. And for me, I was very worried that my mom would be too sad, that it could impact her. And sometimes when we are left to ourselves, we don't know what the mind can do. And so I was very, very worried for my mom especially. To have a person that is attending to the spouse of the deceased throughout the as long as you could, actually. I was just gonna say, for us it was especially throughout the 4 days, but actually for my family, we actually had someone. My youngest sister was the one that was with my mom even after my father has been buried. Some of the things that this person that is accompanying the spouse of the deceased would also want to look into. For my mom, even for her to walk at that time was a bit not very stable. So to have someone to walk together with her, and someone that she can hold on to as well, or like when we can see that she is not able to stand, then to grab a chair for her to sit, or when you see that she needs tissue or handkerchief, to get it for them. During the burial, it was very sunny, so to make sure that there's an umbrella so that they are also shaded. So like for us, we were worried for our mom, and so we also decided that to have one of us to even accompany my mom when she's resting, or like during when she sleeps at night. So my youngest sister played that role. The other thing that you may want to look into earlier on is having somebody being in charge with sending out information, to handle the calls, and also sending out informations and announcement. If you can assign this to someone earlier on, it will be very useful, as there will be many information that you want to announce and share. As you will see later, throughout the 4 days, we had to send out information, and there were also people inquiring about information. Having a person, at least one person, to do this, it will be very useful. Day number 2. My brother and I were in Brunei. We were only able to return to Kota Kinabalu on day 2 evening. My father passed away on day 1 evening. We were only able to reach back home on day 2. So after my father has passed away, immediately the body would be sent to the hospital, where there are some procedures that have to be done. Things like a doctor or a medical officer to certify the time of death, etc. And after having done all those, the body will be kept in a mortuary in the hospital compound. So in day 2, when my brother and I arrived, when we reached home, the first thing that I did was to went and see my mom and see how was she doing. There were already people in our house, our close friends, our family friends, some of our relatives were also around the house. But the first thing that I was impelled to do was to went and see how my mom is doing. And of course, after seeing how my mom was, that was actually when I realized of the first point that I mentioned just now. We will need someone to tend to my mom. So after that, our family called for a family consultation, where all of my immediate family members gathered, along with my father's siblings. By then, some were already there, and also my mother's siblings. So we had a consultation, and we started, of course, with saying some prayers for my father, and then to look into what are some of the things that will require our attention during the next few days. Something important would also be reading the will, especially the part related to instructions on the handling of his remains and how he wished to be buried. The other thing was also we had to decide designating who could help out with keeping track of things related to finance and expenses, and also who can help out with sending out information and announcements. So in our case, we were only able to do this on day 2. So if you are able to do it in day 1, it will be useful. The finance person will be looking into things such as keeping track of expenses and whether we have enough to cover things that we need to look into, and also some of the contributions and donations that friends offer. So the other thing, when I arrived home, my mom was in her room and she wanted to be in her room. And when I went and see her, she was telling me that she knows that there are people in the house, our family friends and my father's friends and relatives. But she felt that she couldn't be with them at that time because looking at all of them will remind her even more of my father's absence. And so she wanted to be in the room and not with all of everyone outside. But then when there were certain people who wanted to meet my mom in person, then we arranged for them to come to see my mom in the room, which is something to note. Even though you have someone assigned to look after the spouse of the deceased, do know that sometimes they may request that they want to be by themselves and they want to have some time for them to be alone. And even then, my suggestion would be the assigned person to be nearby, to allow them the space that they require, the space that they need, but to be nearby so that in case anything happen, you will be able to respond to it. So after the family consultation, my family called for prayers, to have some prayers together with everybody that have gathered in the house. And at that time, my mom also decided to join the prayers and to be with everyone that was present. And true enough, when she saw the faces of everybody that was there, she just couldn't hold it in and she broke down. But then we still said prayers together. And in day 2, after we had prayers, the thing that we had to do was to get my father's body released from the mortuary. And to do this, you will need to